जय। परम करुणा से श्री गौर निताय की जय। भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hari Hari Om. Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. So we'll begin with a new canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me share the screen here. Yes. So this canto is entitled is the first step in God realization. Today we'll be doing the invocation. Before I begin, I'll begin this invocation first. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, the first step in God realization. Vyasdev begins with invocation. So we will begin with this invocation, same thing, but now we will officially begin with this. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Please, all of you, please, whoever wants to recite.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Anyone else wants to recite?
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we will do the synonyms. So I hope not we get confused. So the verse itself is, today's verse is this invocation. That's why we did in this way. Synonyms. Om, O my Lord. Namaha, my respectful obeisances unto you. Bhagavate, unto the personality of Godhead. Vasudevaya, unto Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Translation. O my Lord, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. Vasudevaya means to Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Since by chanting the name of Krishna, Vasudeva, one can achieve all the good results of charity, austerity, and penances. It is to be understood that by the chanting of this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, the author or the speaker or any one of the readers of Srimad Bhagavatam is offering respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, the reservoir of all pleasure. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the principles of creation are described, and thus the first canto may be called creation. Similarly, in the second canto, the post-creation cosmic manifestation is described. The different planetary systems are described in the second canto as different parts of the universal body of the Lord. I'll shut the window. Okay. Sorry for that. For this reason, the second canto may be called the cosmic manifestation. There are 10 chapters in the second canto, and in these 10 chapters, the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam and the different symptoms of this purpose are narrated. The first chapter describes the glories of chanting, and it hints at the process by which the neophyte devotees may perform meditation on the universal form of the Lord. In the first verse, Sukadeva Goswami replies to the questions of Maharaj Parikshit, who asked him about one's duties at the point of death. Maharaj Parikshit was glad to receive Sukadeva Goswami, and he was proud of being a descendant of Arjuna, the intimate friend of Krishna. Personally, he was very humble and meek, but he expressed his gladness that Lord Krishna was very kind to his grandfathers, the sons of Pandus, especially his own grandfather Arjuna. And because Lord Krishna was always pleased with Maharaj Parikshit's family, at the verge of Maharaj Parikshit's death, Sukadeva Goswami is sent to help him in the process of self-realization. Maharaj Parikshit was a devotee of Lord Krishna from his childhood, so he had natural affection for Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami could understand his devotion. Therefore, he welcomed the questions about the king's duty. Because the king hinted that worship of Lord Krishna is the ultimate function of every living entity, Sukadeva Goswami welcomed the suggestions and said, because you have raised questions about Krishna, your question is most glorious. The translation of the first verse is as follows. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksharan Milikam Yena Tashmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbisesa Sunyavadi Pashyata Desatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. O my Lord, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Hare Krishna. Good morning. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for your time and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I would like to seek blessings of all assembled Vaishnavas to share something on this. Seek blessings of senior Vaishnavas. This particular verse is an invocation. Now, invocation is actually here. Sukadeva Goswami is going to begin narrating the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada in his purport writes, and the whole scene, Parikshit Maharaj was sitting in the banks of Yamuna, Ganges or Yamuna, sitting, and Sukadeva Goswami appears, unexpectedly. It's like all auspicious situations has created for him. When he is sitting there, Sukadeva Goswami appears. Now he's raising this question. His question is, what are the duties of a human being at the point of death? This is a very interesting question. He is in the verge of death, and he could have asked so many things can be asked. But then why even after 5,000 years, we are glorifying this activity. This question is because of the greatness of Parikshit Maharaj. He could have asked so many questions. The question is raised is going to benefit the whole human society. That's why Maharaj Parikshit is glad to receive Sukadeva Goswami. He was proud also at the same time that he is born in the family of Pandus. He mentioned that Lord Krishna has a special mercy on the Pandavas. And because Lord Krishna was always pleased with Maharaj Parikshit's family, in this last moment of our time, while he's leaving body, he sent Sukadeva Goswami to help him in the process of self-realization. We hear this, many times in our ISKCON movement. Also, we hear, our senior Vaishnavas share how wonderful thing happened and during the departure of the family members of the devotees. So here, a similar thing, we can see that, of course, Parikshit Maharaj was himself is a devotee, but he does not claim. He thinks that because my grandparents, they were devotees, Krishna is very kind, and to help that family member, the Lord Krishna has sent Sukadeva Goswami. He doesn't claim to be he's a perfect devotee. However, Maharaj Parikshit was a devotee of Lord Krishna from his childhood, and he had a natural affection for Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami could understand his devotion. This is the symptom of great souls. They can understand by seeing the patient, by seeing the person, what is his mental condition. What is mental condition? Just like a perfect expert doctor can understand the disease from the symptoms of a patient. So similarly, the pure devotees can understand the psychological situation of their disciples. So Sukadeva Goswami could understand Maharaj Parikshit's devotion from the questions he raised. Because this kind of question is raised only by wonderful, great persons, what one is supposed to do at the time of death, not being worried about other things. And more than that, this particular question has gave the opportunity to answer Sukadeva Goswami in relationship to Krishna. Therefore, he welcomed the questions about the king's duty. And because king actually, in his question, he hinted. Sometimes in our classes, in Bhagavatam class, we see, senior Vaishnavas ask questions in the class. They don't ask questions because they want to really know the answer. Not because they don't know the answer. They ask this question because for the benefit of the whole sangha. So Sukadeva Goswami could understand that Parikshit Maharaj is already a great devotee of Lord Krishna, but his question was very much beneficial. And his question is actually hinting the worship of Lord Krishna in the ultimate function of every living entity. That's why Sukadeva Goswami is very much pleased and welcomed Parikshit Maharaj's questions. Now, Vyasadeva has begun this, second canto with an invocation. Is Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We read this verse, we read this prayer, we offer this prayer every day before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. And I will also seek all of your help, but I will share something on this. From Prabhupada's purport today, Vasudevaya means, Vasudeva is the father of Lord Krishna. Vasudeva means Krishna himself. So Vasudeva means to Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Since by chanting the name of Krishna, Vasudeva, one can achieve all the good results of charity, austerity, and penances. it is to be understood that by the chanting of this mantra, Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya, the author or the speaker or anyone, any reader of Srimad Bhagavatam is offering respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, the reservoir of all pleasure. So simply by chanting this verse, one can get the results, which one can get result by offering, charity, austerity, and penance. As Lord Krishna says, in a human form of life, one must offer yajna tapa. In any case, one should not give up. And the yajna dana tapa is also 3 kinds. It is given: mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of equalness. Here, Prabhupada writes, simply by chanting Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya, one will get the good results of these 3 things. That is in summary of this. Now, Prabhupada further writes in the purport, saying that the principles of creation, let me share the screen to all of you also. Prabhupada says, in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the principles of creation are described. And thus, the first canto may be called creation. Many times I asked this question, actually up until now, why this first canto is entitled as creation. Because in the first canto we see, in general, that's kind of setting the scene, why the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken. But in Sutta Goswami in 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, he explains. He begins with about the principles of creation. He says, Jagruhe Paurusam Rupam Bhagavan Mahadadivihi Sambhutam Sodasa Kalamado Lokasi Sukshaya. He says that in the beginning of creation, the Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of the Purusa incarnation and manifested all the ingredients for the material creation. And thus, at first, there was a creation of the 16 principles of material action. This was for the purpose of creating the material universes. So, many times the pastimes of the Lord are very sweet, not many times, all the time. But Bhagavatam, our teachers in the direct us in the proper way of understanding the Bhagavatam, proper way of understanding Krishna, proper way of entering into the pastimes of Krishna. So in order to know the greatness of the Lord, we have to know his energies. A king is known by his opulences. Whenever we talk about king, because we have experience in this world, the king has all these opulences and the army, the possessions, the palace, everything we discuss about it. So similarly, to the process of God realization also includes the knowledge of his energies. That's why in the beginning of creation, the Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of the Purusa incarnation. We have to know about that as well. And what else we need to know? The manifested all ingredients for the material creation. So that we will go through in the details. So at first, there was the creation of the 16 principles of material creation. And what are those? It says that the 16 principles is basically the 5 gross elements and 11 senses. 5 gross elements and 11 senses. So primarily, in that verse, Prabhupada writes that living entity is eternally pure, but when it comes in contamination, when it comes in contact with the material nature, he gets conditioned. When he's conditioned, Some of the living entities by devotional service, they go back to Godhead. But rest of the living entities at the time of annihilation also, they merge into Mahatattva. Make sense? Mahatattva. We are belong to spiritual world, and we come to this material world. But since time immemorial, we have been stuck in this material world. And the nature of this material world is it has a it has a creation, it gets created and is maintained and is annihilated. And this process repeats again and again. So if this process repeats and again, what happens to the living entity? So the living entity resides, those living entity who do not go to the spiritual abode because we did not perform or we are not perfected in our spiritual life, we remain in Mahatattva after annihilation. So I'll read a little bit from this. This is a little technical subject. Please bear with me. Krishna maintains these material universes by extending his plenary expansions. So this Purusha form is confirmation of the same principle. The original personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, or Lord Krishna, who is famous as the son of King Vasudeva or King Nanda, is full with all opulences, all potencies, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. A part of his opulence is manifested as impersonal Brahman, and a part of his opulence is manifested as Paramatma. This Purusha feature of the same personality and Godhead, say Krishna, is the original Paramatma manifestation of the Lord. So this Mahatattva, why this is being discussed at this time is to understand Krishna. We have to know his creation, his opulences, his energies. That's why the 16 principles of material creation as Mahatattva is divided into 16 parts, namely the 5 gross elements and 11 working instruments or senses. Those also has to be understood. These are known as principles of creation. So this is what. Now, second point to note is when we know about God, we need to know about the creation and creator, the creator and creation both. By offering this prayer, Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya, we understand that the creation is not without any conscious being or superior intelligent being. The matter is not created by interaction with the material elements, but there's a supreme cause. So the Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudeva also, it itself indicates that there's a supreme spirit who is the cause of everything. Now, post-creation, I'll refer some of the things from second cut also. What happens the post-creation of the cosmic 16 principal ingredients? Example, you make a dish laddu. When you make a laddu, laddu is created, but to have the laddu, you have to have these ingredients. You need a sugar, you need a butter, you need a wheat flour or any other ingredients, and somebody also to make it. So Bhagavatam stresses that understanding God means we have to know the ingredients and we need to know the process and we need to know the cause behind it, everything. So after the 16 principal ingredients are created, the different planetary systems are described in this second canto here. That's the first canto is creation of the 16 principal ingredients, and second canto actually focuses more on the manifestations of these planets. Manifestations of this planet means when you see everything in the day or night, sun, moon, all different planets, they manifested. and the manifestation took place from the principal ingredients. So different planetary systems are described in the second canto as different parts of the universal body of the Lord. So while describing this creation, universal creation, Sukadeva Goswami very expertly elaborate in such a way that we will contemplate the personal aspect of the Supreme Lord. It's a material universe, it's a material creation, it's a material manifestation, but you're perceiving as the personal form of the Lord, even though it is a temporary, just as Lord Krishna revealed to Arjuna, the universal form. So all this, the second canto is going to explain the cosmic manifestation, the different planets and the locations of the different planets, while being described. At the same time, he's taking the practitioner, the reader, in an understanding that the Lord has a personal form, from impersonal aspect to the personal aspect. So there are 10 chapters in the second canto, and these 10 chapters, the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam and the different symptoms of this purpose are narrated. In the sense, okay, we can understand the science of this universe. At the same time, while understanding the science of this universe, we also come to realize, God is a person. It goes parallel. It goes parallel. Now, God is a person. It does not directly jump into the Krishna's form, 200 form, because when we are not purified, when you're a beginner, we cannot contemplate, we cannot accept very easily how a tiny little boy, 200 form of Krishna, can be the cause of all universal creation, maintenance, and annihilation. How everything is sustaining on him. That's what is bewildering. When the pastimes happens in Krishna Katha, especially, Lord Krishna is in Vrindavan and manifesting the universal form in the mouth, in his own mouth, and revealing to Mother Yashoda, Yashoda. So that's very confusing. How somebody can understand this? It's not very easy. That's why the neophytes level, we have to understand, Sukadeva Goswami is giving the universal creation that, first of all, conceive the Lord is a person, even though you're studying about the material manifestations. At the end of Srimad Bhagavatam, at the end of second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma is explaining Narada. Actually, also asking, after explaining this, Chatusloki verse, which he received from Lord Vishnu, he's also asking him to expand the Srimad Bhagavatam understanding. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the and the following is the creation of the universe. That is one. The second is sub-creation. The third is planetary systems. And fourth is protection by the Lord. Even though everything happens, then what I need to do? I need to take shelter of the Lord, because Lord is protection by the Lord. The creative impetus, the change of Manus, the science of God, and how we can go back, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the Samam Bonam. All these are in 10 divisions are mentioned. Now, to isolate the transcendence of the Samam Bonam, which is the Lord Krishna himself, in the 10th canto, the symptoms of the rest are described sometimes by Vedic inference, sometimes by direct explanation, or sometimes by summary explanations given by great sages. Because it's not very easy to conceive the Lord in this way. So the elementary creation is explained in those who are inquisitive. They need to know especially in this age and time, people always ask questions. When in olden days, many times people, if you speak them, they will just believe it. Okay, here is Krishna, and I would worship him. But now people want to know how Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How this, if God is creator, then how did he create? How this material ingredients came from? What is the process? How did the water come from? How did the thirsty come from? And how did the urges of the thirsty came from? And the fulfillment came from? All these things is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. That also is part of God realization. So the right situation for the living entities is to obey the laws of God and thus be in perfect peace of mind under the perfection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let me explain on this is, as a living entity, for us to be perfectly situated is that we must obey the laws of God. That's why the Manus, Manu Samhita and many law books are meant to give us the right direction. All the purpose of dharma means, religion means dharmantu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The instructions comes from the Lord, and the living entity is supposed to follow. Thus, Manu Samhita, Brahma Samhita, everything comes for the benefit of the living entities, so that we can learn from it, follow it. The science of God describes the incarnation of the personality of Godhead and his different activities together with the activities of devotees. Now, let me share the screen with you so you all know what is being discussed here. So this has been technical, but it's very important. I have to see. It is, I think this, this I was referring from the last verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto. It describes basically that in order to know God, we have to know his creation, where we are situated. The Supreme One is who is liberated. The Supreme One who is celebrated as the Supreme Being or the Supreme Soul is the Supreme Source of cosmic manifestation, as well as its reservoir and winding up. Thus, he is the Supreme Fountainhead of the Absolute Truth. So today, when you are offering this invocation, Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya, what I understanding is that it's invocation prayer. Now, I would like to also request Vishnu Prabhu to share on the purpose of the invocation. But my understanding, the invocation is, that is what we are going to understand about that subject matter. In Chaitanya Charitamrita also, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, for each and every chapter, he gives at the beginning a particular prayer. The purpose is, what is going to understand essence of that chapter. So similarly, this today's verse, let me share again the screen here. Sorry for this. Yeah. So similarly, Sukadeva Goswami actually did not, I believe this is written by Vyasadeva. Srimad Bhagavatam is actually being spoken very soon from the starting from next verse is by Sukadeva Goswami, but it's invocation prayer. Oh my Lord, oh the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Because only by his mercy, only the mercy of the teachers, his devotees, we will be able to understand the greatness of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, it is very, very difficult. We will become, sahaja. Sahaja means, directly jump into 10th canto in the pastimes of the Lord. Still, we will have doubts in the process. So, I would like to stop it here and pause it here and open for suggestions and more information on this subject. Vishnu Prabhu would like to say something on this, please. I could not prepare much on this.
Hare Krishna. So we see here this mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And we also saw it at the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, before the first verse. It was chanted, right?
Yeah.
So two places. So in those two places, we see this verse, and we can think about it like before any activity. Jiva Goswami said, in order for it to be successful in this Kali Yuga, it should be preceded and followed by kirtan. Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here, this is a kind of kirtan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That's kirtan, right? Chanting the holy name of Vasudev, Krishna. So that's interesting. So why do we chant it not just at the first, before the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, or of the first canto, or the first verse of the second canto, but every day when we recite Srimad Bhagavatam, or even or Bhagavad Gita? How can we recite that?
That's what it is. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, right?
Yes. How can we recite it before every Srimad Bhagavatam class? It's only here at the beginning of the first verse and of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the beginning of the second canto. So why do we recite it every day if it's only those couple of places?
Well,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Because they were chanting continuously. We are stopping every day.
we are
Oh, is
getting.
that right? Is that why? Okay.
That's
So,
my
so if we stopped every day, then there's a whole bunch. We could do the whole first chapter every day.
Well, I think that's what Mother Sovaradaji mentioned. The idea is not the duration 7 days. This was spoken 7 days.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. So that could be one explanation. Are there any other explanations? How did it come about that we're chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya before Srimad Bhagavatam class? What?
Did Prabhupada chant it?
Did he? You don't know?
Yeah, I have the classes.
Yeah, of course. He always had it chanted before Srimad Bhagavatam. So we follow in his footsteps. That's, he didn't always chant, sometimes devotees chant other shlokas, to embellish the introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam, but Srila Prabhupada didn't chant those regularly. But he chanted Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya before class every time. Practically as far as I know. Yes. Always when I was there, he always did that. So we're following, that's our method, to follow the great acharyas. So we begin by offer respects to Vasudeva, and there's so many other things. I was going to ask some questions. I don't know if it's allowed, because you mentioned I was supposed to say.
Questions or corrections? Yeah, please go ahead.
No, questions. So you were talking, you said that that in the first canto, third chapter, there's a description, Jagrehe Parusham Rupam, that verse describes the creation begun by Mahavishnu, Karana Dakshay Vishnu, creating the 6 principles of material action.
Yeah.
And then you said that after the creation of at the dissolution time, all the elements and the jivas, the jiva souls, return to the Mahatattva, you said. Isn't it? Didn't you say that?
Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, sometimes you see pictures of Mahavishnu, and all the universes are coming out of his breathing and the pore holes of his body. And then at the destruction, they come back into his body. So where is the Mahatattva? Where is it located?
Yeah, that's the question is you're asking? Okay.
Yes,
So,
I'm asking that question.
Well, yeah, here also it is mentioned here. It comes from the, I believe, yeah. Okay, to answer directly from here, Mahatattva is located in the spiritual sky. You know, we see here, I see in the material sky, I see a cloud here, I see a rain cloud. Okay, so similarly, Mahatattva, for us, you know, because I am conditioned to see in this world only, so I see the material sky. So if I look into the spiritual perspective, you know, the spiritual perspective in spiritual Vaikuntha and Golokadham, they have a sky, which is Brahmajyoti. They are located in the Mahat. There is a sky called Mahat. The smaller portion of it, very tiny portion of it, is called Mahatattva. That sky. In the spiritual sky, the effulgence of Brahman is spread all around, and the whole system is dazzling in spiritual light. The Mahatattva is assembled in some corner of the vast, unlimited spiritual sky, and the part which is thus covered by the Mahatattva is called the material sky. So this part of the
So, go ahead. Go ahead.
Is only an insignificant portion of the whole spiritual creation. So what I see is that I'm sitting here in Delaware, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the sky, I see a cloud in a certain area. So similarly, if I try to put myself in Vaikuntha Loka or Golokaloka, when I see the spiritual sky, will find a it'll find a cloud. That is the Mahatattva.
Okay, so is that Mahatattva outside the body of Mahavishnu or inside the body of Mahavishnu? You understand the question? Because if Lord Mahavishnu is creating those 16 principles of material action, right? And then that was before all the universes were created, right? He created those 16 principles, and then and they're not exactly they're principles. They haven't fully developed yet. They're just kind of potential experience. Where are they occurring? Where does it happen? Is the Mahatattva the whole area? You know, we're just saying like somebody's in Pennsylvania, and then in Pennsylvania there's Philadelphia, there's Harrisburg, there's Allentown, you know, it's all Pennsylvania. So is that Mahatattva includes, you know, the Mahavishnu or no?
Okay, that's very nice. I know, technical question. So in one sense, this is also an achintya, because our whole everything is within Krishna, right? And at the same time, this Krishna does not come in contact with his external potency. You know, as Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains in the second chapter of the first Adi Lila, you know, the Krishna's position and the Vishnu's position. And there he explains, you know, in the process of creation, all these three Vishnus are engaged. But at the same time, in the process of all these three Vishnus are engaged. But Krishna never comes in contact with at all with them. So sometimes it appears like that the Vishnus are connected with the matter, but actually then he clarifies that they never come in contact. But at the same time, we have to know that the Lord's inconceivable potency, that everything is within Krishna. Nothing is outside of Krishna. So this is inconceivable potency of the Lord. So similarly, the Mahatattva, Lord Vishnu does not come in contact with the Mahatattva, rather he agitates the Mahatattva. And with his agitation, with his glance, the principal ingredients of the material creation is manifested. And once that is done, the universe is manifest. Because Brahma does not appear until one universe is created. Like your sand and cement and water, everything is created. Then you create a place. That's where Brahma enters through the navel of Lord Vishnu. So Brahma's function begins. He begins meditating on the universal form of the Lord. okay, earth needs to go here, here the sun needs to go, here the moon needs to go, everything. He that's why he's called secondary creator. But actually before Brahma, a lot of things are created. But to directly come to your question, is Mahavishnu is a Achintya, because simultaneously the matter is within Krishna himself. At the same time, he's separate. So to directly answer your question, yeah, it is separate than Mahavishnu. Now you tell me. That's my understanding.
It's a little difficult to understand from our material conceptions.
Yeah.
So then another point was in the first canto, calling creation, that Srila Prabhupada describes in the purport, it's the principles of creation. So the principles of creation are also described in the first verse of the first canto.
Yes.
Janmadhyasya yaton vayaditaratas charte svabhigyasvarat. Everything is coming. Janmadi. Janma means coming from. That person is coming from or maintained. Adi means etc. So the birth, maintenance, and destruction are all coming from that abhigya swarat, that person who is completely independent. That's Krishna. So that's the same. The principles of creation are also mentioned in this first verse too.
Right. Yes. Thank you.
And then also the purpose of the creation is described. And then Srila Prabhupada said in the purport of that invocation, the symptoms of the purpose, the symptoms of that purpose. And I thought that was quite interesting way of saying it, symptoms of a purpose. You have any, I'm not understanding that too clearly. You have any insight into that statement? The symptoms of the purpose.
Let me open that way everybody gets this. This one, right? You're talking about today's verse. Yeah. I remember what you were saying here. Is it
the
here?
second canto?
Yes.
Yeah. There are 10 chapters, and the second canto and these 10, the purpose of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the different symptoms of this purpose are narrated.
Yeah, there are 10 chapters in the second canto, and in these 10 chapters of the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam and the different symptoms of this purpose are narrated. Yeah, the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam is, even though it's like a the way I understand it, even though when you go on vacation, you describe about the place of the vacation and how does it look like and everything. But ultimately the purpose is, for the enjoyment. So similarly, even though the 10 different subjects matters are described, ultimately the purpose is to realize, make the reader realize that Krishna is the person, supreme person, and rendering devotional service. Thus, throughout the chapters, throughout the verses in the cantos, the author will be constantly directing us to Lord Krishna and his devotional service. So that's what I understand from this. And the different symptoms of this purpose, I don't know, maybe different level of realization. That's I can guess. But otherwise, the purpose is in Prabhupada's purport. Wherever he goes, he brings bhakti, he brings devotional service, so that he directs the readers. He's render devotional service. That's what I understand. What do you think?
Okay with me. I just thought it was an interesting point of discussion.
Yeah.
The symptoms of a purpose. The purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. Why was it spoken? Well, first it was spoken to enlighten Parikshit Maharaj and us as you said, in going back to Godhead in this life, and certainly at the time of death. And so if that's the purpose, then the symptoms of what happens as one is making progress, as you mentioned, is certainly very evident as we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukadev Goswami and before that Sutta Goswami describes there's different verses where he talks about that aspect of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you. So basically, he does not deviate from the questions of Parikshit Maharaj.
Yeah.
He does not deviate from the questions of Parikshit Maharaj. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Please.
Okay, I want to say something.
Please.
I have gone through few chapters in the Canto 2nd, and I found out that all the verses are very, very interesting, and they are about glorifying Krishna. So I find all these verses are important to know and very interesting. I find it different from the Canto 1. That's what I glorifying Krishna and praying Krishna. That's what I have.
Nice. Prabhupada said that even you read one verse, you will be benefited. Even if you read one word from the Shastra, because everything is Krishna. Transcendental, everything is part of Krishna, actually. Either first or last, everything is Krishna. Whole Srimad Bhagavatam itself is Krishna as his incarnation, Grantha incarnation. So either first is Krishna, last is also Krishna, middle also Krishna. That's the understanding. The Uttamadhikari will realize in that way. So at the beginning, we may say, okay, this is better than that, and that is better than this. But actually, everything is a complete. Everything is Krishna. As we advance, as we read sincerely, realizations will come. Thank you for sharing that. Any other questions or comments, corrections? Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, this is more technical. Even I'm not very comfortable, qualified, but because of all of your blessings. And thank you, Vishnupada Prabhu, for adding and encouraging on this. Really helped me a lot. So we will stop it here. Thank you so much. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarvyascha kripa sindhuvyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Krishna Kirtan, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. It's very hard to understand.
Then I'm not a good speaker. The speaker's duty is to make it simplified.
I know, but for me, like a fallen person.
I know that. I was praying, how will I explain this verse?
No, you did very good. You did very good in Vishnupada Prabhu's told a lot of things. But as a lower side, my side, from my side, I'm talking about. Very hard to understand.
The beauty of it is that even though hard, but we are paying our ears. Understanding will be different. The sound will have its own impact. It's like you're sleeping, the doctor is treating you. You don't have to know. The whole medicine, everything is working. So similarly, Bhagavatam is such beauty, the holy name, the sound vibration, such beauty that even if you don't understand, the sound is a medicine. It enters into the heart and purifies, cleanses. And everything will be revealed in the course of time. So just because we don't understand, for me also, many subjects very difficult at Chaitanya Chaitamrita, some of the conversations. But what matters is, am I sincerely paying attention with faith? No, otherwise sometimes it happens when class happens, we go here, this room, that room, and we don't listen very much. That's the tendency. But thank you. Hare Krishna.